What's up, everybody? I'm going to be trying out a new little mini series here with you guys, and I'm super excited to do what I call my students story time. Story time with Mr. D is when I relate some crazy story from my life to the content that I'm teaching them that day. And if you've watched the past videos, you'll know that I've searched really hard in the last 2 years to come up with kind of a set of core values that determine every decision that I make, or to help me guide me through my days. And what I've determined, and I got this from Ben Bergeron in Chasing Excellence, a piece of it is that I really want to live, love, learn, and lead with a strong mind, a healthy body, and a grateful spirit. So in getting into story time today, I am going to share a little story with you about a crazy adventure I had in Australia a number of years ago. And this kind of lines up with my mantra of living. And by living, I mean I want to live 10,000 days. I don't want to live the same day 10,000 times. So every day to me is a gift, and I want to get out, experience the world, take healthy risks, put myself in uncomfortable situations, meet really cool people, go to crazy places. And before I became a teacher, I was spending about 5 years living out of the back of my truck, teaching snowboarding full-time up here in Vermont in the winters. So I was getting about 100 days a season in on my snowboard, 7 days a week from start to finish, all winter long. And in the summers, I would manage a swimming pool in the Boston area. And in between, in the spring and the fall, I would travel around the world. So I would save up just enough money, sometimes not enough, to go on these trips. I'd buy the plane tickets and then just kind of figure it out when I got there. No internet back then, no phone, just my thumb to hitchhike, a couple of maps and an idea of what I might want to do, get out, see the world. And one year my buddy Jave and I were in Australia, and if you don't know the geography of Australia, it's kind of almost set up like the logo of Batman, like a Batman logo, and then you have the two coasts, and kind of the Outback is in the center, like the dry desert, what they call the bush. And we were spending most of our time on the coast, on the beaches and the cities, and we thought it would be really cool to kind of drive out to the Outback and see what it looked like. So we had barely any money at the time, never rented a car before, went to rent a car, and they asked us if we wanted to pay for the extra insurance, and we're like, absolutely not, we're not going to pay the extra $14 or whatever it was to get the car covered for the day. So we got the car, and our plan was to just drive all day, get to the Outback, spend the night there, and then drive all the way back the next day. So like 6 or 8 hours in the car each day to see what the Outback was about, because we'd seen all the steakhouse commercials, and we thought might be cool to check out the Outback since we're in Australia. So we rent the car, this little tiny cheap compact, I remember it was a white car, I don't remember what kind. And I remember the lady saying, "Are you sure you don't want the insurance?" And we're like, "No, we're good. We're gonna roll the dice on this one." And we're driving, we stopped at the convenience store to grab some food. We grab, in Australia, meat pies are really, really popular. And basically you take a meat pie, put it in the oven, half an hour later it's ready to go or whatever. So we bought our frozen meat pies. We put our meat pies on the dashboard of the car, and we started driving. And it was so hot, and we're driving, and there's kangaroos everywhere. And out in Australia, they don't have a railroad system, and they don't move their cargo via planes as much as we do here in the United States, and they just use these giant trucks, tractor trailers, that they call road trains, because it's the cab of the truck and then like 3 tractor trailers linked to that. So it's like a giant train, but driven on the road by a truck. And on the front of these trucks are these giant bars. They're called roo bars, because when the kangaroos are hopping across the road or in the road, these things are so big, powerful, and fast that they don't slow down for the kangaroos, and they just take the kangaroos out. So there's literally dead kangaroos all over the road as we're driving. So, as an American, never seen this before. It was so crazy. So feasting on the dead kangaroos are these big birds called magpies. They're like white and black birds, about the size of like a seagull that you'd see like at the beach here in New England. And the magpies would fly down, they'd feast on the dead remnants of the kangaroos, and then as you get closer to them in the car, they just they'd move out of the way and then come back after you drove past. Well, my buddy Jay was driving, and we were cruising along listening to my brother's band Barefoot Truth. I'll never forget it. Back when we were listening to CDs, our meat pies were cooking on the dashboard of the car. Literally, they were heating up in the dashboard of the car. So hot out, and we're cruising, and we're getting closer and closer to this group of magpies that are in the middle of the road. And my buddy's not slowing down. He's pretty laid back, and I don't want to be the kind that's always telling people what to do. You know, I'd rather be kind than be right, so I'm not trying to tell people how to live their lives. And he's getting closer and closer, and he's not slowing down. And I look at him. I was in the passenger seat, so I look at him, and he doesn't slow down. And all of a sudden, boom! He crushed one of these magpies. And I was like, he goes, every other time that we drove through a group of magpies, they always fly out of the way. I don't know why this one didn't. And immediately I thought, oh my gosh, we did not get the insurance on this car. It's going to cost us who knows how much. So he starts to slow down. I look over him. I say, pull over. We pull over. We're sitting quietly in the car together, just the two of us. And I said, do you want to look or me? He goes, I don't know. So we go rock, paper, scissors. Of course, I lost. So I walk out. I walk around the front of the car. And I immediately, it's the only time it's ever happened in my entire life, I started laughing so hard that my knees gave out and I fell down onto the road, and I didn't have my shirt on, and I was laying on the road and my back was burning because the road was so hot. So I'm laying there going, and I jump up and I call him out of the car, and he gets out of the car and he walks around. And this is honest truth, I'm not exaggerating this. Half of the bird half of the bird was inside of the grill, and the other half was hanging out of the grill. And I just remember its head and its wing hanging out. And he's like, what are we gonna do? I'm like, well, we gotta get this bird we gotta get this bird out of the grill. So I go to grab the bird's head and I pull the beak, and the beak just comes off of the head, and I'm holding the beak, and there's this blood draining on the bird's head. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I pull on the wing, and it is so wedged in there, it's like not moving. And I'm like, we are just gonna drive for the next 2 days with the bird hanging out the front of our car. So I see a bush kind of off to the side of the road, and I grab a giant like branch from the bush, and I take the I take the branch and I start jamming it into the bird, and jamming the bird into the grill. So now I have the head inside the grill, I have the wing inside the grill. It's still dripping blood, and we pulled the parts off of it that you couldn't stick stuff inside the grill. And then I took the stick and I reached around and I pried it, and after a whole lot of work, it was so hot outside, I remember sweating trying to do this with my flip-flops on, I managed to push the entire magpie behind the headlight of the car. So we're pushing and stuffing, and finally I get the entire magpie. So you can't, if you look in the grill, you would never be able to see it because it's stuffed behind the headlight of the car. And we drove around for the next 2 days with the magpie jammed behind the headlight in the car. And then we returned the car as the same lady. She said, well, are there any issues, gentlemen? Anything I need to know about? And we looked at each other, looked at her and said, no, ma'am, it's all good to go. I can't imagine how bad that car smelled with a dead magpie wedged behind the headlight for the next people that had to rent it. So anyway, that's my story for today. I wanted to lighten the mood just a little bit with everything that we have going on around here. I have my new light set up. Hopefully that worked. I'm going to do a couple series of these stories and how they link to my live, love, learn, and lead core values. And the mantra here is just get out and live. And even if that means stuffing a magpie behind the headlight of your car. Anyway, if you know someone that might appreciate this story and needs a lighthearted story in this rough time of this pandemic, share it with them. Thanks for having me.